fun today. And I do need to get Zoom going. There we go.
It's okay to have it on the background of the whiteboard.
No, ideally not.
Yeah. So turn. I took a picture of it already.
You might be able to be here. No, you're okay. Are we live?
Yeah.
So just we can move this a little forward. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
There's nothing on there that's a huge concern. Uh-oh. Did I just click?
We may need to plug that one in here, so just keep it.
Oh, that's fine. The lighting's there good. Maybe lower it a little bit even. Okay, let me see here. We're set up okay. Look at that, Vanessa, you're already co-host. I didn't even have to have you tell me. All right, let me see if I can. Yeah, just turn that volume up if you would, and then get this streaming. There we go. So close. Hello, Erica. Good to see you on. Can we verify that on Facebook we are right side up?
Yes.
Alright, live now. And we're also on this view. Live now.
Yep, you're good.
Great. Hello. Am I still right side up for all of you? Good to see you on Hoida. Good to see you on Rupsa. Good to see you on Erica.
No, I see how this one looks like.
Ah, it's sideways. Why does it do that? Let's see. Let's see if we can fix this. We might have to go live again. Been having issues with that all week. Alright, so we have to. Okay, we're running out of time here, so everybody focus here. Live now. Cheeky Scientist Radio 8, 5, 18. It's already. I'm gonna delete this. We're gonna have to go live again. Please wait a sec. Prove to employers. Okay, let's see if we can get Zoom live there. That should work. And let's try this again.
YouTube's good.
Game time. Yeah, it's still a little bit off center here. Let's see if we can fix that. Let's try that. That might work. We just need to. Can you adjust this too, Jenny? It was a little lopsided and we just need to get that straight and then we'll be getting started. Hello everyone, we're going to get started here very soon with another Cheeky Scientist radio show. We should be live on the home page, on the fan page. We'll be getting started very, very quickly. Can you verify we're on the fan page too, the public page? We're live. And it's the 5th. Let's see if we can get this to be on. Three minutes. All right. Hello everyone, if you're just joining us, we are about to get started with another Cheeky Scientist radio show. Hi team, I'm going to click broadcast here a few minutes early and then we will get started very, very shortly. So are we live streaming on the fan page? Mary? Kathy, thank you. Are we live streaming now again with me not upside down in the private group? Not yet? You don't see me yet? I just reloaded it, so it might be coming up here. Hi, Golnaz. Good to see you on. I see one person.
There we go. You're good.
Hello, hello. All right, so I think we got the second one. Can all see me? Most importantly, can you see the coat rack in the background? Okay. Maybe we should move that. All right, so 2 minutes to start. I see some of you joining us here, some of our members who are able to join us on Zoom live to ask us questions are here. So good to see you on Lisa, good to see you on Lydia, good to see you on Patricia, good to see you on Aparna, good to see you on Vasuda, good to see you on Siram. Thank you. If you can see and hear me, can you type in yes in the chat box? And please remember to change your chat box drop down. This is for our members. Change our chat box, your chat box drop down to all panelists and attendees. Great. If you are watching us live, either on YouTube, hello YouTube, or if you're watching us live on our Facebook fan page, hello Facebook fan page, PhDs, you can comment in the comment boxes there and we will have members of our team responding to you in real time. So let us know any questions you have. We have a very exciting show today. We're going to talk about strategic narratives and their importance in your job search. It's an area that is mostly forgotten or never heard of by PhDs when it comes to a job search, right? We're very analytical thinkers. We want to think about stats, numbers, right? Job duties, stuff like this, but telling these strategic narratives is very important to showing employers that you are a good fit for the job. So, I see us live here. If you're in the private group watching and camera angle 2, hello Abhigyan, hello Priya, good to see you on. I think we finally have me right side up. I don't want to jinx it though. And we're gonna get started live now. So welcome to another Cheeky Scientist radio show. I am Isaiah and I'm very excited to have you with us. We have a great show lined up. Today we're talking specifically about strategic narratives and how these strategic narratives will help you get hired, why they're crucial to every single step of your job search. Have you ever had to give an elevator pitch when networking, or maybe you didn't have one and you just kind of rambled on about your prestigious university and all the great work you were doing? Okay, you have to have a strategic narrative ready when you're networking. What about your LinkedIn profile? Does your LinkedIn profile or your resume just list everything that you've done in the past? Or does it frame how you are a good fit for the position in the future? Okay, we call this future facing or future focused. We're going to talk about that. We have a specialist on today who's going to help us write compelling stories, write these strategic narratives that are going to help you get hired. It doesn't stop there. We're going to talk about how the STAR method when you interview really is just a framework for telling a story. When you go on a site visit, even if it's for an R&D job, right, a purely lab-based position, they're going to ask you to give a talk. And for that talk, here's what the brief is going to say. Talk about yourself and some of your work. Okay? In other words, you're going to have to tell one of these narratives, one of these strategic narratives. And that's why we have on our guests today, who I will be introducing very, very soon. I want to bring our team on first, who made this possible. So first up is Vanessa. Hi, Vanessa. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. I'm super excited about today's show. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Very excited to have you too. I think we can, I'm going to turn these speakers up just a bit. We have these really nice fancy speakers here now. They're at least $10 from Best Buy. So great to have on Vanessa. Next up we have on Kathy. Hi Kathy, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. Great to be here.
Great to have Kathy. So Kathy is going to jump on with us about mid-show to talk a little bit about resumes, some of the mistakes that we see in terms of resumes, how you even need to tell a narrative, right? You need to place a narrative within your resume. We'll talk about that. We'll also tell you about a resume webinar that we have coming up that's for free if you're trying to get your resume in shape, or if you've been uploading resumes and you haven't heard anything back. We have on Jeanette with us too. Hi, Jeanette. Jeanette, you're on mute, but Jeanette is coming on for the Show Me the Data, so don't worry, she will be unmuted then, but you can say hi again, second chance. No, nothing. All right, we'll let you get that fixed, but we have Jeanette. I promise she's a real person. We'll bring on Mary. Hi, Mary. How are you?
Hello, Isaiah. Hello, everyone. I'm good. Happy to be here.
Great to have on Mary. So you will see Mary in those comment boxes if you were on Facebook in particular, Facebook here, private group Facebook here. She'll also be in Zoom. We have on Lisa helping us in the Zoom chat for our members only as well. Great to have everyone on. Thank you for all of your help. We also have Carissa over here behind me. Hello, who's helping produce. And then we have Cheney, who's doing a lot of our media, who will come around the side just briefly. Okay, that's enough, Cheney. That's enough. All right, so very excited to be on today. I'm going to go through a couple of the things that we have coming up in this show. So we are bringing on our, we call him our external guest, our specialist. And we have on Zach Mercurio. He's going to be talking with us specifically about these strategic stories, right? Telling a compelling narrative at these different points in your job search, and you absolutely have to do this. And the data backs it up and why it's important and why it's memorable and why it's the difference maker that's going to get you hired. So if you've been executing a job search, you're not hired, it's because you're not utilizing these strategic narratives in your resume, in your LinkedIn profile, while networking and while interviewing. So we're going to talk to him. Of course, before that, we're going to do our infamous Show Me the Data section, because we have data to back up everything that we're going to talk about today. That's where we're going next with Jeanette. We're also going to bring on a special guest, Yaping. Yaping's going to talk to us about how she's worked with Zach to create strategic stories in her job search and how it's helped her. And then we have a lot of other special things too. We're going to bring on Elizabeth, who is an MSL at Pfizer, to talk to us a little bit about the day in the life of an MSL. This is something that's very relevant to a lot of our associates in our program, because we do have an advanced program for MSLs, and an MSL is one of the top jobs right now for PhDs and one of the top paying jobs as well. Then we're going to bring on Kathy and Mary, who are going to talk with us about resumes and LinkedIn respectively. We're going to do a full LinkedIn review today, so you make sure you stay tuned for that. So let's jump in here. I'm not forgetting anything, am I? Vanessa, Carissa, we're good to go to the first couple of sections. I want to share my screen, unless I'm told that I'm missing something. I'm going to share my screen here very quickly. Do me a quick favor and let me know in the chat box if you can see my screen. Just type in a yes there if you're one of our members who are able to join us in Zoom and have direct access. Thank you very much. So I'm just showing this very, very briefly. If you are a Cheeky Scientist associate, you have access to all of our advanced programs. Now, one of our most popular advanced programs is the MSL Alliance. It's for you aspiring MSLs. It's a complicated position to get into. It's a very high-level competitive track. We have on great mentors in the group who have hired MSLs, managed MSLs. If you're interested in this program, you can sign up on the link here. Again, this is only for Cheeky Scientist associates, so if you're watching this publicly, you would have to become a Cheeky Scientist Associate first to get access to this, but we are releasing information on the next enrollment here for this program next week. And just very briefly, it is a completely separate program with video training modules on what it takes to become an MSL, what a day in the life of an MSL is, how to do very specific things such as build relationships with key opinion leaders or KOLs. If you don't know what that acronym is and you're interested in being an MSL, you definitely should look it up no matter who you are. Fun fact, more PhDs are hired today for MSL positions than ever before. It used to be exclusively PharmDs, MDs, but they see the value of PhDs in this role now because they're able to speak the language of science, of signaling pathways, of drug pathways very, very well. And most importantly, as a PhD, what's your biggest asset you are able to learn quickly? I think my battery's frozen up there. I think we should be okay. 20% battery, we might need to plug that in. Okay, no, we're okay here. That's for YouTube. Don't worry, YouTube, we have you covered. For those of you who are watching this publicly, I will just mention very, very quickly that we have a free resume webinar next week. We added a lot of material here. It's brand new, it's updated, 12 resume secrets. I didn't want to add any more to the number 12. There's actually probably 20, 40, even 50 resume secrets in this webinar. But if you are watching us on Facebook or YouTube, you're not a Cheeky Scientist Associate, you can come to this webinar. Of course, if you're an associate, you can come too. If you're an associate, you're going to get the recording, so no worries there. But if you are a PhD who's not an associate, who's looking for a job, who just got into the job market, you can join us for free for this webinar. This is a sneak peek. We haven't even released this or sent any emails out for it. It's going to happen next Thursday. If you're hearing this and you're like, wow, I'm looking for a job. I need to learn how to get a job as a PhD. I want to get a PhD level job, whether it's an MSL job or an R&D or data scientist. No matter what it is, we have a program that will help you get hired. Just go to phdsgethired.com, which will take you to this longer URL. But go to phdsgethired.com and we'll send you all of our free ebooks and information on the program and on getting hired in industry.
We should introduce briefly what CSA is for the public.
CSA, yeah, so Cheeky Scientist, it's the Cheeky Scientist Association. It is a program specifically for PhDs, built by PhDs, that'll help you get hired into the industry job that you want. It's really two things. It's a complete blueprint for getting hired into a PhD level job. If you want to get a job at McDonald's, pretty straightforward. Upload a resume, right? Get hired. Much harder for PhD level jobs, and those of you who have been uploading resumes and not hearing anything back, you must be suspecting that it's a little bit harder. So we have a blueprint for that, over 100 different training videos, documents, etc. It's not one of these a la carte things where you have to pay for every document or pay for every video. You just get access, you get lifetime training for not just your first job, but to get you all the way up into senior management. That's our goal for all PhDs. The second part of it is it's a private group just of PhDs who are in industry or transitioning into industry. So if you want to learn more about that, you can ask a question in the comments box. Before we get on to the Show Me the Data section, I just want to show you this incredible blog article. Right? If you have no idea how to interview for an industry job, you've never been on a site visit, or you've gone on a site visit and you didn't get hired, check out this article. It has all of our best articles on interviewing for industry. We'll put the link in the comment box on YouTube. We'll put it in all of the different chat boxes. Check out this article, top 10 articles to help PhDs ace their industry interview. Great article, and it's interactive. What I love about it is you can click on these different little, we call this little icon here, this is Dr. Cheeks, okay, for those of you that don't know. You see this little person running around, holding up signs, different poses. This is Dr. Cheeks, right? You click on the article you want to go to, click on Dr. Cheeks. He will take you there, she will take you there, right? It's Dr. Cheeks. So, Facebook, if you are not following us on Facebook yet, you definitely have to go to our Facebook page. It's just facebook.com, My Cheeky Scientist. Some of you are likely watching this on Cheeky, you're watching this video show on this page now. Let me see if it's showing. Here it is. I'm going to pin it to the top. All right, so I'm watch myself on Facebook in this icon. But if you're following us on Facebook, if you're watching this video on Facebook, you can follow us. You'll get all of our updates. All of our radio shows stream here, our public radio shows stream here. We have a lot of different bonuses that we post here as well. We have insights that we'll give you. We'll tell you, just inspirational quotes, often based on data. We post here too. We have blog highlight videos. We have Ask Cheeky videos where people ask questions and we answer them live. So this is definitely a page that you want to follow. Okay, 10 after. Let's get to the data section. I'm going to bring on Jeanette. Let's see if Jeanette is able to speak at this point. You're still quiet, Jeanette. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, we still can't hear you. We might need you to jump off and jump back on and try again.
That might work. Let me see if we can. Let me see. So Vanessa, why don't you work with Jeanette on that, and then I will go through this first section. Just do me a favor in the Zoom box and just type in yes if you can see this first image, right? So this is where we want to dig through the data and talk a little bit about the data, because let's face it, we're PhDs. We want to know, we want to see the data, right? It's great that we talk about all this stuff, but is it backed up? Is there substance to it? There absolutely is. This first article that we're sharing here, it's from the Muse. It's called "A Powerful Personal Identifiable Story is More Persuasive Than Statistics." And I know you're thinking as a PhD, no way is a story more persuasive than stats. But I'm going to show you something that's going to blow your mind. It blew my mind. And I've seen other data like this, and I just can't even imagine it. And I know PhDs think a little bit differently, but you have to understand how powerful these narratives, right, or these compelling stories are. And that's why they're so important to your job search. Because guess what? Most of the people you're going to be involved with in your job search are not going to have a PhD. This is how they're going to think, okay? So this first story, what we're looking at here is we're looking at a chart of 3 different bars. It's a bar graph, 3 different bar graphs. And there was a test. There was 3 different groups that were tested, right? One group was given statistical information about the plight of many children, all right? The second group was given only a story about one victim. The third group was given a story about the victim and then some statistics, right? So students, this is how the experiment was set up. Students were given $5 for answering a survey. Then they were given the opportunity to donate that money to Save the Children Fund. Okay, so again, first group, they were given statistical information only about the children. How much money did the average student donate? $1.14. Not a lot of the $5, okay? Second group, they were just told a story about one individual one individual victim. They got very specific about one victim. They told a story about that victim. How much did the kids donate? $2.38, almost half of the money they had. Here's the crazy thing. If they were told a story, this is group 3, if they were told a story about a victim and then given statistics afterward, the amount they gave dropped down to $1.43. So adding statistics made people less likely to care, to donate money, right? It's amazing, even if they still heard the story. So Jeanette, were we able to get you on? I think you're still on mute, so it's okay. It's all right. Maybe you can call in by phone and we'll have you come on. Vanessa will help you with this. Call in by phone.
Yeah, totally.
We'll get your voice in here. So this is amazing. So what does this mean? How is this practical for you in your job search? Stories are powerful. You want somebody to hire you because you're an individual person. You're not a victim here, but you're an individual job candidate. So tying in stories about what you have, your skills, your individual personality, who you are, is important for getting the position, right? You want to tie in who you are, you want to tie in your story to what you're going to bring to the company. How can you prove you're the right person for the job? How can you show employers, right, especially hiring managers and recruiters who often don't have PhDs, that you're a good fit for the position? It's not through data. It's not through statistics, okay? YouTube, did you hear me? Facebook, it's not through data. It's not through statistics, all right? It's through stories. How does this come into play? Your elevator pitch needs to essentially be a story, right? A strategic narrative where you're talking about not just what you want, but why it's important. Why should the employer care, right? That's a part of a framework of telling a story. The STAR method during an interview: situation, task, action, result. That's just the curve of a story where you talk about a problem that you had in context. There's a climax, right? The result, and then you end it with how this helps you in terms of that position. So very, very important to understand that stories are the differentiators. As a PhD, yeah, we know you know the data. We know that you know how to talk about numbers, but you have to go beyond this and tell your story, especially the future-facing story, the future-oriented story of why you're a good fit for the position and how you're going to thrive in that position. Okay, we're going to look at another article here. The title here is 58% more people remember stories than they remember statistics. Are you seeing a theme yet? Okay, stories are more powerful than statistics, again, especially for non-PhDs. As PhDs, we live and breathe by numbers and statistics. We're like, show me the data, hence the title of this radio show section. But other people are not this way. They remember stories. There was a large-scale survey. Hold on, I think we have Jeanette on. Just give me 1 second. There was a large-scale survey of all different types of presentations that were done. Thousands of presentations were attended, and people at those presentations were polled afterwards to see what they remembered after the presentation was over. Most commonly, it was one or two things. The title of the presentation, that was it, and or a story that was told during the presentation. This is crucial because, again, on your site visit, you're going to be asked to tell your personal story. Absolutely. And you're going to be asked to tell your skills. So this article, again, 58% more people remember stories than remember statistics. What this little graphic is showing is that after a presentation, 63% of attendees remember stories, only 5% remember statistics. What's 63 minus 5? Quick math, right? 58. So Jeanette, are you on by audio?
I believe so.
Yes, we have on Jeanette. See, Jeanette's a real person. So if you can hear Jeanette, can you tell me in the chat box, I hear Jeanette? Or just yes, will do. That's fine. All right, thanks, Jeanette. So you were here and you saw me go over the last two stats. So anything to add?
Yeah, the thing I wanted to add with these is to really realize that people lead with their emotions. You just can't really help it, right? So these stories are really appealing to people on a social and emotional level.
Yes.
And I know that as PhDs, we often can sort of turn that off and we can look at the data. But think about how much training we have done to do that, right? So no one else that you're going to be interviewing with, usually they haven't had that training to focus themselves onto the importance of data. And so they are really relying on your stories and you to persuade them using this social, emotional angle that is really important.
Yeah, and so again, it comes down to one of the most important things in a job search, or really in terms of the field of persuasion. And guess what? When you want a job, really, you are in the field of persuasion. You're trying to get somebody to hire you. It's focusing on your audience. What do they care about? What do they want to hear? You can rattle off statistics. Very likely to a hiring manager, a recruiter without a PhD, you're just going to sound arrogant when you do that. They're going to be like, oh, great, numbers. Wow, I really want to hire this person. I can't wait to work with them 8 hours a day. No, they want somebody who understands how to tell stories, who's relatable. Very, very important, okay? And it doesn't mean that you go into, on a dark and stormy night, blah, blah, blah happened, but you frame things into antidotes, things that actually happened, right? Real world experiences. That's what this really comes down to.
2 minutes and 10
Yeah,
seconds.
definitely.
2 minutes? You have too much to go through. Okay, so what the next section real quick is, what does a good story look like? So a lot of people hear about stories, I like to call them narratives because it sounds a little bit, more tangible. These strategic narratives, and you have to have a narrative on your LinkedIn profile, right? There needs to be a thread of something happening, not just a bunch of results or job duties listed, and we're going to talk about that later. Here, this article, again, is titled, What Does a Good Story Look Like? It's very similar to the STAR method that we'll talk about a little bit later too. So for those of you that don't know, when you answer an interview question, the worst thing you can do is say, yes, no. Do you have a weakness? Yes, right? You want to answer this, and you want to basically tell a story. The STAR method, it's STAR, stands for situation, task, action, result. So for example, if somebody asks you a common interview question of, can you tell me about a time where you struggled or had a conflict with somebody in management? Right? What you want to do is give them context, right? That's the situation. So 2 years ago in the lab, right? And then the task. What was the challenge, the problem, the task at hand? And in this case, it was we had to get an article submitted within 2 weeks, and we didn't have enough data yet. Okay, that's the problem, the task at hand. What action did you take to solve that task, right? So we set up a collaboration with a lab down the hall to get data faster, right? And then as a result, that's the R in the STAR method, as a result, we were able to get the article published on time, and it published, right? So what's being shown here is something called Freytag's pyramid and data stories. And maybe you can walk us through this pyramid, Jeanette, and how it relates to the STAR method.
Yeah, of course. So this is a theory about what makes the best type of story and how can your narrative be the most powerful. And I just thought it was so interesting that it follows this STAR method that's essential to your interviews almost perfectly, right? Where you need to set an introduction, you need to set your situation, or no one's going to have any idea what you're talking about, right? But then you need to say, what did you actually do? What happened?
What would
right?
you
And that's
say
action
you do
and
here?
climax.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, what was the action that you took that made something happen? And then you have to wrap up your story. There needs to be a result, a very tangible result, or a conclusion, and the next steps, like, why you even tell me this story.
I love that. And what I see most people doing in general, especially PhDs, is we just go for the jugular. We want the data, we jump into the climax, and that's it. We don't set up any sort of introduction, right? There's no situation, like we just jump in, like this is what happened. Like this is the peak moment. And then we don't tie it up at the end. There's no conclusion. So it's very important for you to do that when you're speaking with people. And I know as a PhD, and this has happened, right? Head whatever, face palm, mic palm. All right, so what happened to me on a particular interview is I went in and it was somebody who was very, very chatty, right? This guy just loved to talk. Different personality type. Like most PhDs, we want to get to the point, results, and we do very well with those interviewers. But a lot of interviewers, they'll tell you stories all day long and they'll just want to talk. And then what I found myself doing was trying to bring him back onto the topics that I wanted to talk about. Worst thing you can do, let them tell the stories, and if that's how that person relates, is going to relate to you through stories, tell some stories of your own, okay? It's very, very important. This kind of narration, right, throughout your job search is critical. And we're going to talk more about it now with our external guest, but I want to say thank you for Jeanette for troubleshooting, right? That's part of her story. Thank you. Thanks, Jeanette. Good to have you on. I appreciate it. Please say thank you to Jeanette if you're with us here in Zoom as one of our members, or just say thank you if you heard Jeanette's voice on any of the live streaming social media platforms you're watching us on. All right, so I'm going to move forward now to Zach's bio. Very excited to have Zach on. Zach is a best-selling author and is widely recognized as one of the leading voices on the role of purpose and meaningfulness in life, work, and organizations. Now, don't worry, right? Remember, we're PhDs here. You might hear the word purpose or stories or meaningfulness, and then that puts you to sleep, okay? That's always my concern. But there is a tangible definition for this, and it can help you in your job search in a very tangible way. So think about it as strategy. It's a type of strategy. Think about it as narratives. Think about it as the reason why you do things. The more you can explain why, for example, you're looking for a job, or why you're a good fit for the position, that's what we mean by purpose here. So Zach's work is, he's a researcher and consultant, and he has applied his consulting strategies to transform Fortune 500 companies, nonprofits, K through 12 schools, and universities around the world. Zach is a best-selling author of The Invisible Leader. That's what I feel like most of the time. Transform your life, work, and organization with the power of authentic purpose. And he is the founder of PurposeSpeaks.com. Check that out. We'll put that link in the chat box. It's a popular blog on purposeful leadership. His work has been featured internationally in Forbes, Inc., the Huffington Post, Thrive Global, and Acuity magazine. I like that title, Acuity. As a researcher and adjunct faculty member at Colorado State University in Fort Collins. I bet you didn't think that this guy had anything to do with PhDs, but he does. As a researcher there, he teaches courses on organizational and leadership development. Fascinating fields. If you haven't checked them out, you should dig into them. It's great stuff, especially if you're looking for a job in industry. He is completing his PhD in organizational learning, performance, and change. Zach, great to have you on. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good. I think we can hear you okay. Can you speak up a little bit louder? It might just be
yeah.
No, that's perfect.
Can you hear me good? Okay.
I can. So thanks for coming on. You probably heard the setup here.
Oh yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah, well, thank you. So I think, my challenge is going to be taking all of the stuff that you have, backing it with science, giving our audience, and tying it together with a job search.
Beautiful.
That being said, I do want to start broadly, high level, by talking about why narratives or stories are important, why purpose is important. I know you can speak about some of the neuroscience behind this, so let's hear it.
Sure. So purpose really is defined as the reason for which something is done or created, the reason for its existence. You look
Yes.
in any dictionary, it's a great place to start.
Yes.
It's essentially our use and our usefulness to others. And it's that usefulness quality of purpose that makes it beneficial. Research from UCLA finds repeatedly that we are wired for altruism. It's one of the reasons why we've survived as a species, is our ability to contribute. And our brain gives us rewards when we contribute to others. We get a little boost of oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, when we think about others and our impact on others. And the same is true when we communicate that impact to, for example, an interviewer. When we talk about impact, when we activate empathy, we activate a little boost of the happiness trifecta of dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin, which enables the emotional influence center of our brain to guide our rational brain to make decisions about us. So purpose is the driver
Wow.
of the story because it activates emotion, because it's contribution centered.
Amazing. So let me just unpack that a little bit. So I think
Yeah, beautiful.
I love what you said at the very beginning about it being, the reason why, your usefulness. Okay, usefulness is a softer word for utility, right? So basically, when a company is evaluating whether or not to hire you, what they're really thinking at the end of the day is, what can you do for me in the organization, right? How useful are you going to be in this role, right? That's really what they're looking at. And if you're not talking about the reason why, then you're missing everything. And I think PhDs tend to miss this a lot because you're going to get asked point blank questions on, do you know why we're hiring you? Why do you want to leave academia? Why do you want to work here versus somewhere else? And that really ties into this idea of purpose. Like, what's your purpose? Why are you even showing up to this interview? And then it extends further into usefulness and the usefulness you can bring to that organization. So I think it's critical to understand that and to understand the importance and to understand how it helps employers and shows employers that you're a good fit, right? So maybe we can break it down a little bit more in terms of how the brain works, because I love this stuff, right? I love how stories, and you saw some of the data we talked about, it activates your entire brain versus, if you hear a statistic, a very small part of your brain. That's why people remember stories so well. And also there's something called neurocoupling, right? And I know you've talked about this and written about it. So maybe just tell us why a narrative is so important. Why are our brains wired to think in terms of narratives and purpose?
Well, toddlers are a great example of this. Their brain works together. So the Broca's and Wernicke's areas of the brain are the things that process facts. So when somebody tells us a list of facts, that part of the brain, all it's activating is that part of the brain. It's turning those facts into something our brain can use in the future. But as you said earlier, when we tell an emotional story, the emotional centers of our brain, our limbic brain, start firing as well, and parts of the brain that didn't work together previously are now working together. Princeton, when I think it was Princeton who did the study that you referenced, when they hooked people up to an fMRI machine, they showed that the brain's areas all started working together when they showed when they told that emotionally compelling story, which allowed us to be more functional thinkers and more imaginative, and allows us to make better decisions. There's an interesting study. Antonio Damasio did a study on decision making out of UCLA, famous neuroscientist. And what he did was he took subjects that had damage to the emotional center of the brain and subjects that did not, and he asked them to make everyday decisions. Wow. And what he found was when the subjects with emotional damage to the emotional centers of the brain took longer to make decisions, could not make simple decisions, like it was, asked them, how much money would you spend on this? It was very simple statistics-based decisions. But those who had the emotional center of the brain intact were able to make those decisions much faster because of that emotional influence on our rational brain.
And I love that. So, when you hear, if you're a PhD, maybe it's just me, I don't know. But if you hear the words like empathy, emotion, you're just like, oh gosh, who cares, right? Like, show me the data. But this stuff is crucial. And so what you just said is that having empathy, having a good emotional intelligence, whether or not that's actually a real thing or just an extension of IQ, whatever, we'll leave that aside. But actually understanding emotion, having emotions helps you make decisions better, right? And that executive function of your brain is crucial, and they're tied together. And I think that's fascinating. Okay, I want to get really practical with you, Zach.
Sure.
So I want to talk about 4 areas of a job search, right? So there's obviously your professional profiles, like a LinkedIn profile, your resume. One thing that a lot of us struggle with is we talk about everything we've done in the past. We just list job duties and results, but we don't tell like a narrative. And I know that you know the power of telling a narrative or a story, even a resume, even on a LinkedIn profile. So maybe you can talk about why that's important and how do you do it on paper, right? How do you start to tell a narrative and to showcase that, hey, you need to hire me for this job, and you tell a story of yourself as being the perfect fit for that job.
Yeah, I mean, and I see it all the time when I just ask people, this is the non-scientific answer, when I just ask people to introduce themselves, I hear name, what you've done, some sort of certification, and maybe a little bit more about your educational background. That's it. You replace your name from that, and you could be anybody.
Wow.
And anybody can copy what you do and how you do it, but they can't copy at your core why you are. And the why you are is your unique contribution, what impact you have had. So when you think about, let's take LinkedIn, for example. When you think about sharing, instead of listing your statistics, talk about the impact you've made. Better yet, scientifically, talk about the impact your research, your work, your technical skills have made on other human beings.
Yes.
Which is powerful. I had a water engineer that I was working with, and the water engineer, after we went through this whole process, he was just sort of fixated on, this is what I've done. Well, I have all this experience in the lab. I've run this lab. I have these technical skills.
Yes.
And then we did this whole crafting a statement that is not related to what you do or how you do it, but it's the impact you have. And he basically said that, I've believed for the longest time that water is the source of life for everybody.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, right, I said, just reintroduce yourself with that. I've come to believe that water is the source of life for everybody. And
Yes.
that's the business I'm in. And here's how I've delivered that. But instantly, you feel different when you hear that as someone else. And so you're able to get the person at the other end of the story emotionally ready to take in why your training, your skills, your technical expertise even matters to the world and what you believe in.
That's fascinating. And again, as PhDs, that's something that's very difficult for us to do or to think about doing. So what Zach's essentially talking about is like an elevator pitch. So one of the next topics I wanted to bring up was networking, right? So stories matter there because
Yeah.
a lot of us, we get asked a question at a networking event, we say, tell me a little bit about yourself. And we just prattle on about being at whatever university and doing whatever else, blah, blah, blah. But if you start with a reason why, or you include a reason why, and we have this in our Cheeky Scientist elevator pitch structure, it's much more powerful. Just think about this. If you say, well, I work on XYZ in the lab or programming, whatever, so what? But if you say why it's important to humanity, or at least to the other person, like say, well, I want to help develop treatments for XYZ disease. Now you have me because there's some sort of purpose there, right? There's a narrative, a reason behind it. And that's what Zach's talking about here. One last job search related question I have,
Sure.
Zach, is for site visits, very often, we hear this all the time, PhDs are asked to give a talk. And it's very different than an academic talk, right? In terms of the direction they get for a site visit talk, usually it's like, okay, 15 minutes, and all they say is talk about yourself and your work, and that's it. And the part that most PhDs struggle with is talking about themselves. They've never talked about themselves in academia, right? Because we're taught using very academic language. We think, it could be
Right.
said, whatever. So
Yeah.
how can you best talk about yourself on a site visit without coming across as arrogant, whatever? Like, how can you tell a story that makes sense and helps them, maybe makes the audience reach that kind of neurocoupling state where they see you as a good fit in the role? What would you suggest?
Yeah, there's a couple things, and I want to infuse it also into the STAR model, because
Yes, right.
the first is, when you think about situation, we're taught to just list out, again, we even factualize situations, like we make them boring by saying what was happening, who was around, great. But I think the key is that talk about the problem. Like, what was the problem you were solving, and who's the human being that would be the benefactor if that problem were solved, whether it's a lab mate, a teammate, someone else in your department, wherever it may be. So in that, set up the problem. And people really, scientifically, people don't care about the solutions you offer as much as they emotionally care about the problem you exist to solve. So set up that problem in there as well. The task, I think, you've got that. Those are the things we know. This is what we did. But when we're thinking about our result as well, going down to the R, is then talk about how what you did actually solve the problem for another person. How a research study, or how developing a new technique, or how helping a colleague out actually made their lives better, made their work better.
Yes.
And inevitably impacted someone else, and collect that story. The best people who do this regularly are story collectors and storytellers. They not only know how to tell stories, but they know how to collect their own stories about when their work deeply mattered to other people. And that other-centeredness, again, goes back to activating the emotional center of the brain, because we're contribution centered, which gets people ready to hear all of the wonderful things you've done.
Yes.
But now they know why it matters.
And this is, as a PhD, this is one of the most valuable things you can do. Because if you're a PhD, you can talk about the numbers, you have the technical side, but you can actually communicate things in a framework of why and a story and adding context. You are incredibly valuable. So you can't just be thinking like, whatever, I'm just going to get a job by, talking about my data because I have so many publications, blah, blah, blah. It's wrong.
Yeah.
You got to talk about why. And so to sum up what Zach is saying here, if you want to know how to tell a strategic narrative, the STAR method is a great example. Situation, right? Provide context. The task is the problem. Focus on that problem, not just why it's a problem for you, but why it's a problem for other people. I love that Zach said that. What action did you take? And then the result, again, not just the result for you, how it helped you, but how it helped other people.
Exactly.
Crucial. Because it's going to show that you're a good team member as well. So, Zach, thank you very much for your time. This was powerful.
Can I add one thing?
Please.
I just want to add that we talk about results, and I'm a very logical, rational thinker. I work in quantitative side of research. So,
Yes.
and I just want to remember that all of the results, the technique, everything that you've done, all the things that we've done only exist because of purpose. For example, no one ever just created a job to pay you. Every job exists to solve a human problem or a human need at the end of the chain. So I think it's important just to remember that all of these results and things are so important that we've accumulated and acquired over time, but they only exist because there's some sort of broader purpose of our work. We tap into that, and it's your ultimate competitive advantage.
I agree, and it can be super practical. We talk a lot about, for every bullet point in your resume, ask, so what? Because it's going to help you tap into the why behind that.
So what and so that. Who
that.
did you help? So that who could be impacted by you.
Incredible. Please thank Zach in the chat box, and please thank him on all of the social media platforms. Zach, I want to have you back on for sure. This was incredible. Really great to meet you.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks.
Good stuff. And check out his book in the back, right? The Invisible Leader.
Yep.
Okay, it's a great book. Highly recommend it. And hopefully I'll have some physical copies to show here on the next radio show, because I do believe in it, and I really like the message today. Make sure you go to his website. What's the best website again,
It's
Zach?
ZachMercurio.com.
ZachMercurio.com. We'll put that in the chat box too. Thanks, Zach. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Vanessa, you want to jump right to Elizabeth? Or who are we going to next?
We have time to jump. We're going to jump to Yaping, and then
Yaping.
Elizabeth will be ready in a few minutes.
All right, Elizabeth. Hi, if you can hear me. Excited to have you on. Yaping, are you ready?
She's ready.
All right, let me show Yaping's LinkedIn profile so everybody can connect with Yaping, because she is an incredible PhD to connect with. This is Yaping. She is a pharmacologist. She's a business-minded pharmacologist. Look at all of these certifications that she has. She continues to train in every aspect from business. She's looking for medical science liaison positions. She's an intern at UC Health as a regulatory specialist. She did her postdoc at Colorado State University. You heard that university recently. Where? Because Zach's there. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about. But first, Yaping, I want to bring you on. I want to say hello and make sure everybody can hear you. So hello, and thank you for joining us.
Hello, everyone. I'm here.
All right, if you can hear Yaping and see her, can you type in "Hi, Yaping" or "Hello" in the chat box, and I'll make sure that she can be seen here.
Wonderful.
So Yaping, good to see you. How are you?
Pretty good.
Pretty
How about
good.
you?
Pretty good. All right, we'll try to get it to excellent by the end of this interview. So my first question to you is I want to start with why, right? So before we talk about the strategies, Zach's strategies that you applied to help you in your job search, why did you start looking for a job in industry? And why did you start looking for medical science liaison jobs?
Well, when I decided to leave academia, I have a really strong sense of loss. It's just like everything I've done in the past, I have to leave it there, and I try to keep myself busy so I can still feel my existence. But then I've done a lot of things, but I'm not getting any closer to what I want. And then I went to Zach's talk, and he talked about purpose, and then it's just like something it finally clicked with me. And I'm like, well, yeah, I left academia, but when I look back, I'm like, the initial purpose, the initial enthusiasm for me to get into science, it's still there. I want to do something that's impactful and in terms of improving the wellness of people.
Yes.
That is still there. But so I start to think, okay, I'm not on the bench anymore. I don't want to be on the bench. Then what else I can do to fulfill that purpose? And I start to, sorry.
No,
And
this
I
is
start-
great. Wait, let me just, because this is fantastic. And I think, I mean, how many of you, whether you're watching us on YouTube or you're watching us on Facebook or you're a member in our Zoom chat, how many of you have felt a sense of loss when you considered transitioning to industry? Like you felt like you're turning your back on academia and you're turning your back on something maybe you couldn't even define, right? Maybe you thought you were, in a sense, ending your previous career. And I think that's normal. But if you dig into kind of your career story, you're turning the page. Like you're actually leveraging everything that you've learned to get into a better career where you can't, not only are you able to do the best science, the best STEM work, right? But you're also being paid well and being paid what you're worth for it. So I think reframing that is important. And what I also liked about what Yaping said is she asked herself why. Why did you get into your PhD in the first place? What were you actually trying to accomplish? And I think a lot of us got in because we wanted to help humanity, right? We wanted to do something that had a large impact. We wanted to have an impact, right? That's the word that Zach used. And we realized that, wow, I'm really not having impact. I'm just writing grant after grant after grant after grant, right? Or that's what my life is going to be like if I'm a professor. So Yaping, I think that's crucial. So what shift did you make? You learned this stuff was important. How did you identify a new purpose or reason why for yourself? And how did this spark you to start looking for industry jobs, MSL jobs?
Like a lot of us have done, I start to look at what options are out there for me. And so coming from association, you got that 40 industry position guide, you got that 20 transferable skills, and I go through that and see what resonates with me a lot better. And of course, on the other hand, I'm also doing a lot of informational interviews. And through these conversations, I feel like, oh, there's something that aligns with me very well. I feel that energy just coming out of me nonstop.
Yes.
And that's how I know, that's something I want to go. And every time I do informational interviews, I'm learning something new.
Yes.
And my enthusiasm is still there. So I know it's not just a small burst of like pleasure,
Yes.
if you call it that way.
Yes.
And that's really something that aligns very well with my purpose and aligns very well with the goal for
Yeah.
myself.
And so basically what Yaping's talking about is being in touch with how she feels about something, which is a very foreign concept to a lot of us PhDs. I know it is for me very often. Like I think, what's the usefulness of this? But we don't think about, does this make me excited? Is this something where I'm like, yes, and it just boosts my energy like Yaping's talking about? You saw her get energized just as she was talking about the options, the new career paths that she could go down and a new future.
And when these results are meaningful, it helps me to tell a compelling story, to connect with people that I talk to right away, and also it helps me to make sure my purpose, my why aligns very well with the company's why. And that's actually why how I got this internship opportunity.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you, Yaping, very much. And
Yep.
again, just to reiterate, focus on your results, but why those results are important, what they allowed you to do, what's the impact of them, not just to you, but to other people. Again, that's, I think,
Yes.
the takeaway message here. Yaping, thank you very much for coming on. Please thank Yaping.
Yeah, thank you.
Whether you're seeing her on Facebook or YouTube or Zoom, thank her very much. Really good to have that tie-in and to have somebody who's practicing these principles and getting ahead because of it. All right, Vanessa, who is up next?
I had to unmute myself. Elizabeth is up next. She's ready to go.
All right, let me just do a quick intro of Elizabeth because I'm really excited to have her on. Elizabeth jumped on here with us last minute. She's actually at a conference. She's an MSL. She's now at Pfizer, little company, maybe you've heard of it. She was previously at, well, she got her PhD and did her, let me me see, I'm sharing my screen here. I got to remember, it was Vanderbilt University and then University of Massachusetts. I remember, Elizabeth. All right, so a very, very strong scientific background, went on to Piramal Life Sciences as a medical director and is now a field medical director at Pfizer. Elizabeth, thank you for joining us and for jumping on while you're at work, as usual.
My pleasure.
How are you doing today?
Doing great. I'm having fun networking with a lot of cheekies here.
Oh, really? How many are
Yeah,
there?
there's about 10 of us.
That's amazing. So Elizabeth has been to more cheeky meetups than any other human ever, and her record will never be beat. She's probably had, I don't know, how many different cities? 20 plus?
A lot.
I mean,
Yeah, definitely 20 plus.
for those of you that don't know, as an MSL, typically, or in the MSL field, some of the titles vary, you will live in an airplane, right? But it's more fun. It's like Up in the Air, but with a happy ending where you actually really enjoy travel and all the people you meet. So,
That's right.
so Elizabeth, we've obviously been talking a lot about reasons why, stories, etc. I thought a good question to ask you would be, why did you want to get into an MSL position? Because I know you were set on it, and you worked your tail off to make it happen, and your career's just exploded ever since, because I think you've had such a strong reason why. So what was that reason?
So my reason why was that I wanted to utilize all of my strong educational background, but I wanted a more translational approach. I had, like many people, I've been touched by a lot of different medical diseases, not personally, but mostly by the family members. And it really gives me a strong hope that, there is a scientific breakthrough out there. And as an MSL, I get to have a more translational role. I get to actually discuss with physicians about the best treatment option for their patients that will have the least side effects, and have these high-level discussions on the groundbreaking research that's out there. And it just fulfills something in my heart that I feel like I've been building to since I was 8 years old, and I learned a cousin had leukemia.
So that's amazing. So think about how far back this story goes for Elizabeth. I mean, all the way back to when she's 8 years old. And I think a lot of us as PhDs, I would say most of us, have this deep desire to have an impact to help change lives. And a lot of us, especially in STEM, have probably thought very hard about the best way to do this. I mean, a lot of us know people who thought about either getting a PharmD or an MD, but got a PhD because it was more aligned with their ability to really dig in deeply into something and to maybe have a little bit more autonomy. Guess what? That's why the MSL position is so good for a lot of PhDs, because you get that high level of autonomy, you stay so close to science, you get to see it from a much higher level while still having a direct impact, because you're dealing with people directly every day. You're seeing treatments come out that are helping people. So I appreciate you sharing that, Elizabeth. I don't know if we've ever talked about it that in depth. I think it's powerful. So my last question, and I want to let you go, is what do you think an MSL, why, let me ask this, why do you think so many PhDs are being hired into MSL positions today versus, 20 years ago when it was mostly MDs and PharmDs?
So, I just joined a new team at Pfizer, and there are a couple PhDs on the team, but most of them, or I guess a lot of them, are PharmDs or MDs. I wouldn't say most of them.
Right.
But they all mentioned specifically to me during the hiring process that they are extremely value their PhDs on the team, because the medications and the drugs and the treatment paradigms that are coming out now are extremely more complex and scientific. They focus on not just antibody meet target type interaction, whereas it's a lot more post-translational modifications type treatment, huge immuno-oncology field where you have to understand ins and outs of every aspect of immunology in addition to the basic signaling cascade. It's much more complex than it was 20, 30 years ago, and they really highly value the PhD scientific mind that can read a scientific paper, digest it, and communicate it to the rest of the team, because they can't even understand some of those papers themselves very easily. They need a go-between.
I love it. And, PhDs just go deeper than any other degree that's out there. And what you mentioned, being able to read a paper and digest it quickly, a big part of the process of getting a PhD or doing a postdoc or getting grants, etc., is learning exceptionally quickly about any different complex field. And you probably don't realize that that's your biggest transferable skill. We've been talking about it more and more recently because we see that that's what you need to communicate to employers to get hired. A lot of employers don't even realize it. It's not about industry experience. It's really not. there's a big shift going on in employment right now in recruiting, and what people are looking for is how quickly you can learn. Because very often, if you get onto a new team, it doesn't matter if you have industry experience from another company who does things totally different. If anything, that can be a liability because you have to untrain that and then retrain. But if you learn fast, which is what PhDs do, we are doctors of learning, doctors of philosophy, which is knowledge and the ability to ascertain knowledge, doctors of learning. And I think that's what Elizabeth just described. So Elizabeth, thanks for coming on.
Can I add one more thing?
Please.
I just want to say that in my previous role, I was in the neuroscience field, and now in my new role, I'm in oncology. And they hired me, and they said, "Well, we know you can learn the science. We just want to make sure that you're personable." During the interview process, they just wanted to make sure that I could communicate and that I was personable and relatable, so that I could represent them as their company in the field. So,
Amazing. And what was your PhD background?
molecular biology, and I have an engineering degree.
Right. So think of that. Pfizer said, okay, we know that you can come on and learn everything you need to learn about neurology like that, right? Oncology like that.
Yeah.
And you came from oncology,
Neurology.
from
I was
neurology.
in neurology. Right.
Exactly. I mean, that's amazing. And that's an entirely new field. And to think that you can bring on somebody and they can learn it and they're not even concerned, right? They're going to support Elizabeth for sure, but I know they just know she's going to dig in and figure it out. That's what they're going to know about you as a PhD, and I appreciate you making that point, Elizabeth. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Good to see you.
for
Congrats.
having me.
Have
Good
fun
to
at the
see you.
conference. All right, please give Elizabeth a special thank you in the chat box. She is at a conference right now, an MSL, top MSL at the largest company in the world, possibly Pfizer, at least in the biotech field and on pharmaceuticals. So very excited to have her on. Please thank her in the chat box. Please thank her on social media. Elizabeth, you can connect with her on LinkedIn. I showed her profile a little bit ago, Elizabeth Jean Thatcher. Okay, who's next? Vanessa.
Next, we have Kathy getting ready to come on and talk about resumes.
Excellent. So I'm just going to bring on Kathy now. So Kathy is the Cheeky Scientist Chief Operations Officer, but she is also a resume specialist. And I cannot tell you how many resumes Kathy has reviewed. I think I've reviewed a lot of resumes. She has done about 100-fold the resumes that I have. All of our associates get unlimited resume reviews in our program in the Cheeky Scientist Association. Why is this good for you, no matter if you're an associate or not? Because we are able to distill this information and tell you the best practices. Now, I want to get specific here with Kathy, and we're going to talk about the bullet points on your resume. But first, let me bring Kathy on. Hi, Kathy. How are you?
Hey, Sam. Great. I'm thinking about transitioning into an MSL role. I don't know about you.
No.
After listening to Yang and Elizabeth, sorry.
Yeah. This is always my concern, my secret concern. A lot of these roles that are out there for PhDs now, I mean, they're just amazing. And I think employers are finally waking up to the fact of, oh, PhDs are amazing hires. They learn very, very quickly on their own, require very little training because, again, they're doctors of learning, and the roles that they're being hired into are changing. I think data scientists and MSLs are both good examples. PhDs were never hired into these roles before, and now they're exclusively hired into them. So, good. So, well, while you're here, before you become an MSL, let me ask you about resume bullet points. And I want to just mention very, very quickly that we do have a resume webinar that's free to the public next Thursday. Anybody know the date of that? Next Thursday.
September 13th.
September 13th, lucky number 13. I was born on the 13th, so hopefully, that'll help me remember it, but maybe not you. So it's on the 13th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, for those of you in Australia or who just like to stay up late, 9 p.m. Eastern Time as well. So we'll put the link up for you to sign up for that resume webinar early. But Kathy, my question to you is, in terms of bullet points and in terms of the context we've been talking about, how important is it to carefully craft a bullet point? And then what kind of narrative, talking about in the pieces you want to put in a bullet point, what kind of narrative are you telling, and then any other advice you have specifically on those bullet points?
Yeah, this is a great topic because I think it's one of the biggest mistakes that we see PhDs make in resumes is that essentially they use their bullet points to list their responsibilities. And anybody can do that, but it won't set you apart from the crowd. It doesn't tell the employer that you know the results of your work and that you can relate your work to what a business does.
Yes.
Right? So you need to, as Zach was saying, know your why, know why it's relevant to the company and why they should care. And it also builds credibility too. So if you simply list responsibilities, it's not really telling the employer that you're taking ownership for what you did and that you know the results of the work that you did. So the way we describe it to associates is that there's 3 parts. The first part is that you emphasize the transferable skill. And then the second part is that you tell us a bit about the experience. And then the third part is a measurable or quantifiable result based on that experience. And it's those 3 parts together that really crafts the story of your experience in that role.
Yeah, and so think of every bullet point as like a mini strategic narrative. And you're starting with the context that's the most important for employers, your transferable skills, not your technical skills. So conflict resolution skills, team building skills, cross-functional relationships. They love that one. Write that down, cross-functional relationships. And then your experience, right? So that's kind of like, okay, the technical side, that's the story, the arc. And then you always end with that result, and you quantify that result. Kathy, I really liked what Zach said about, making sure you're driving home the why, that the result is important, or getting to the result that actually hits on the why. We talk about asking, so what? He said, so that. Why is why so important, even in something as small as a bullet point?
Yeah, it's important because it like I said, it builds credibility, which is huge. It shows that you think like a business and not like an academic.
Yes.
Like anybody can do a bunch of operational tasks and tick boxes. But what employers want to know is that you can go beyond that and think about the impact that had on other people, like Zach was saying. What was the impact on the business? What was the impact on the lab based on what you did? And I always talk to PhDs about looking beyond publications, because a lot of people worry, I don't have any publications, it's in progress, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. Think about efficiency, think about, safety, think about mentoring students and helping them graduate. Think about all the other aspects of things that you do in the lab beyond publishing. These are all really, really important things.
Great stuff. So Kathy, thank you for jumping on. We just wanted to make sure we covered resumes, because we do have that resume webinar next week, and because it's really important, even on resumes and LinkedIn profiles, which is where we're going next, to talk about the results you've achieved, not just for yourself, but for others, and to have those strategic narratives. Thank you, Kathy.
Great. Thanks, Isaiah. Thanks, everyone.
Please thank Kathy in the chat box, whether you're in Zoom or YouTube or Facebook. We really appreciate her jumping on. I'm going to very quickly show one more time the page where you can sign up for this webinar early. So if you can see can you see my screen? Just type in yes. Vanessa, we can? Okay, great. So just type in your name here. You can choose the 1 p.m. slot or the 9 p.m. slot. It's next Thursday, September 13th. I have a lot of new material, so even if you've come to one of our resumes before, there's a lot of new material here, and we're going to have brand new surprise guests on too. So make sure you sign up for that, and we'll put the link in the chat box for you. And if you're watching this publicly, you can join that. It's free to the public. Okay, next up.
Next up, we have Mary, and this would be a great time to launch that poll as we talk about LinkedIn.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna share a LinkedIn profile here. We're gonna do a live review. I'll bring on Mary first. Let's get Mary on, and while I do this, I'm going to activate a poll. I should be able to show this to you for those of you watching publicly as well. I basically want to know, okay, if you really look at your LinkedIn profile, if you even have one, right, and you've done one correctly, does your LinkedIn profile focus on the past, talking about all your job duties, your results in the past, or are you telling a strategic narrative about your future and why you're a good fit for a future position, the future position that you want? So I want you to be really honest. I think I'll launch the poll after we go through this LinkedIn profile, so you have a little bit better idea of what I'm talking about. So Vanessa, remind me in a few minutes, okay? And Mary, I see you on now. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Are you ready for this? We got a good one. Okay, great.
Oh, we've got a great one.
All right, so tell Mary hi in the chat box if you would, and I'm going to share my screen one more time.
Mary said you sound a little quiet.
I sound quiet? Uh-oh, we're slowing down there. How's that? Am I okay now? Can you hear me okay?
You're good on my end.
All right, great. So can everybody see my screen? If you could tell me in the chat box, or Vanessa, if you could just give me a head nod. If you can see my screen, we're good. Okay, so this is Zia Erdem. Am I saying that right, Mary?
Erdem.
Zia Erdem, thank you. So we're going to go through this. You can see that Zia is a premium member LinkedIn will eventually tell you whether or not you need to be a premium member. You don't need to turn it on until LinkedIn says, hey, you're sending too many messages, turn this on. Just a side note. Mary, what do you see right away when we look at this visual center, right? So the visual center includes the banner picture, the headshot picture, the headline, and that first part of the summary.
Yeah, it is great. So he's in a suit. He looks professional. It's a good quality image. There are no shadows. I would like to see a little bit of a smile, if possible. I think just,
Yes.
be a little bit more approachable looking that way, if you're comfortable with that, Zia.
Zia, you look angry. Let me, Mary's being nice. You look very angry in this picture, Zia. It's okay. My first picture, I was like this. It was like a mug shot. And if you change that, it can have dramatic effects. Just a full smile. We have, in the association, we have a lot of body language stuff that talks about, I forget the name of it. It's like a half smile where your kind of lips are up a little bit, but you definitely want to be looking up, have at least a half smile on your face, and it will help you be much more approachable. Go ahead, Mary. I just wanted to translate.
We chatted with Zia earlier. He's
Yes.
great. I like the banner photo. So I see windmills. I'm thinking maybe, just with that information alone, I think, does he work in the energy sector, for some environmental something? It does catch my attention.
Yes.
And then lo and behold, I look at the headline and environmental engineer. So it's really like that is almost telling a story with no words, right?
Yes.
I kind of know who this person is. And I should say to go back to the whole story. So I was looking through a few different profiles to see which one we could review today. And I thought this would be a great fit because it did tell a story. And so I'm starting to learn what it's like if I was a recruiter scanning through profiles. It really, really does catch your eye. So.
Yeah, and this is so great from a storytelling perspective, a professional branding perspective. Like as soon as I saw windmills, I thought environmental something. And great news, that's exactly what he was looking for, right? And I love that he has, the actual job titles that he wants in his headline that ties together with that, just like you said, Mary. So stories includes the picture, etc. And it's future focused, where he wants to head. He has the job titles of the jobs that he wants in the future. He has a banner focused on not like, some microscopy image that he did in the past or whatever, which a lot of us do, but where he wants to go in the future. And that is crucial.
Mm-hmm.
So what else about his headline and his summary, Mary?
Yeah, so we commented that he needs to smile more, but it says let's connect. So that's a welcoming thing to use in your profile. I noticed that Zia's probably working on building up the number of connections now, so that's a very effective way of doing that.
Yes.
I also noticed he's a CrossFitter, so if I was interviewing him, I would know right away, at the beginning of the interview, a little small talk to make people feel comfortable. We could compare workout tips or something like that. So, and it also shows he has an interest in health and he's motivated. I think that's a really great one.
Are you a CrossFitter, Mary?
Not by brand name, but small group training, yes.
Small groups, so yes, I was going to say, yeah. And so you might not think that these little things matter, but remember, you want to tell a story about yourself, and adding something like CrossFitting or something personal, it helps differentiate you. It opens up a whole new thread of conversation when you talk to a hiring manager or recruiter, especially one who has never, doesn't understand the technical stuff, but they will understand the fact that you CrossFit, or the fact that you like hiking or crafts, etc. So I think that's great.
Great. I really like, before you click show more, this is an elevator pitch. I am a world citizen concerned about this is someone who thinks and is motivated and has intentions. It's not just, I want this kind of position and I have this kind of skill. I think it's a great pitch. A great start.
Yeah, it's future focused, right? What are you concerned about with now? A lot of people's first sentence talks about something they've done in the past or what university they went to, etc. You're not trying to showcase yourself as the world's best PhD student of the past or the world's best postdoc of the past. You're trying to showcase yourself as an industry professional ready for the positions that you want. And I think this is very future focused. It focuses on what is relevant to the positions. Notice the tone that he's talking. He's not like, I used a hands-on approach back when I was in XYZ lab. It's I use, right? Present tense, and again, future focused. I use a hands-on approach with science and technology-based solutions, talking about the stuff that's important to the roles that he wants, process management, project management. Anything else here in the summary, Mary?
Yeah, so I see a lot of transferable skills and I see results, I see numbers, and we talk a lot about that in the association. I think that's really great. I see a quote that I guess resonates with him, which is really helpful. You know, we're talking about stories, and I think he started with to be telling a story at the beginning of the summary. I think the story part could build out of it. It doesn't have to encompass the entire summary, but a little bit more story when presenting some of these skills could be helpful.
Yeah, and you know, the strategy you can use for your profile can be a little bit different. I like putting some bullet points at the top or some key results, but make sure you talk about how those results matter to the jobs that you want, how they matter to other people. But then tell a story. And just thinking of your LinkedIn profile as a narrative will help you frame stuff. Because right now you're probably just putting, you know, some results here, some things you did here, that's kind of in a haphazard way. You want to tell it in terms of an arc, right? So your professional summary should have an arc, right? Where what you've done and why it's a great fit to the position you want. And it should end with the person saying, this person's ready for this role. This person has been training their entire life to excel in the role that I need them in. I will also say, Zia, with this picture and a fairly intense quote, just be aware of what your professional brand is, right? You're quoting The Art of War with Sun Tzu. Great book, no issue with it. But, you know, the word fight, etc. When it comes to some recruiters and hiring managers, they might be concerned, you know, that you're not going to be able to collaborate as well as you would need to in a project manager role. And I'm just trying to keep it real because it's very important what you put on this professional profile and how you come across. These are mistakes that I made. I used to put super intense quotes that really resonated with me on my LinkedIn profile, but guess what? It's not about what resonates with you, okay? It's about what's going to resonate with your audience and the employers that are going to hire you for the job that you want. It doesn't mean that it's not authentic. It just means you need to consider your audience as much as you're considering your purpose. Okay, so I like the fact that you are active on LinkedIn. I'll just touch on this briefly. Yes. LinkedIn activity, right? I think Donna Serdula, who is one of our collaborators, said it's called splashing around, right? So you want to like splash around on LinkedIn. You want to like things. You want to comment on stuff, right? Because your activity is part of the algorithm that LinkedIn uses in terms of if it's going to show your profile to recruiters and hiring managers when they search for project manager. Okay. Now, Mary, a little bit more difficult here, but let's talk about how you can even tell a story, right? Set up a narrative in terms of your experience.
Yeah, so I think sometimes people can start for each job with a few sentences at the beginning, basically saying what you did, and then you can follow that with bullet points with your transferable skill and your measurable results. Right. So give some context to the bullet points that follow.
Yeah, and make sure that context is future focused. You were a civil engineer research associate, you led and completed this, so what? Why does this matter to the job you want now, right? End it with something about what's relevant for this position. How does this make sense? Now, you're probably aligning the stuff that you're choosing here with things that are relevant for the job, but spell it out. You know, conducted research and statistical data analysis resulting in 4 publications, etc. This is why I love the word relevant. Use the word relevant for anything that you've done that is relevant to what you would be doing in the new role. So structure your bullet points as you have done here, but tie it in using the word relevant, etc., to something that they're asking for specifically in the job postings that you've read. The same thing with your education. Last but not least, make sure you're building out parts of your LinkedIn profile that have to do with, again, the more personal side of you, your volunteer work, the non-scientific stuff. Tell the story that you are a well-rounded person that can communicate effectively with all different personality types because you are a part of well-rounded activities. Anything to add, Mary?
I think, can you scroll up to the endorsements, please?
Yes.
Yeah, I think, and volunteer experience, there you see it, right?
Yeah.
And then the endorsements, I think were well selected, the skills, project management and these skills, so.
Right. Does every section on your LinkedIn profile tell a story that you are the right fit for the position that you want? That's how you have to think about it. I'm going to activate this poll now, and now that we've gone through this, please tell me what you think. And be honest, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile or no picture, that's fine. This poll is only available to our members, but I will share the results with all of you who are watching us publicly. It should show. So let's see what people say, right? So does your LinkedIn profile tell a story at all? If it doesn't, be honest. Does it tell a story that's past focused, right? If you have a bunch of things haphazardly all over the place in your LinkedIn profile and you never thought about unifying it into a theme or a narrative, that's no story at all. If you told a little bit of a story, but it's all about what your story is in the past, right? You put it in like chronological order of what you've done in the past. That would be the third option. And then finally, for the rare few of you that might be future focused, because maybe you came on one of our previous radio shows with Donna Serdula, maybe you are telling a story. 3 more seconds, and then I'm going to end this poll. I'm going to share it publicly. All right?
Okay, can I just add something? I'm going to share Zia's LinkedIn profile URL, so everyone connect with him.
Yeah, let's share his profile. I know. And Zia, remember that connecting is on you too. You can't just put let's connect and hope people will connect. Only 53 connections. I know you are a new associate, but let's get that up above 500, because once you hit 500, you hit LinkedIn's algorithm in terms of that factor, and you'll be much more visible in search results. So I'm going to connect with you here. You always want to send a note. Don't just click connect. I'm going to say, Zia, I'm excited to see a smile on your face. All right, send that invitation. You have 1 extra connection, Zia. I'm going to end this poll. I'm going to show it to all of you. Let's see if it shares publicly. I'm hoping it does. I'm not sure. We'll get the analysis. If it's on the public Facebook page, does it show the results? No? Okay, so I'm going to tell you what the results are, just in case. How about for you in Zoom? Can you see the poll? Our members? Whoa.
Yes, in Zoom we're good.
All right, hold on. I just froze myself. Maybe if I click stop share, it'll work.
Yeah, we're seeing your LinkedIn page. Perfect. And we have Zia on with us right now.
Well, let me share the results of this poll. We had a quick freeze there. So everybody on the poll had a LinkedIn profile. That's great. But 44% said they have a LinkedIn profile, and almost half said they don't. 59% have a LinkedIn profile, but the story is past focus. This is probably most of you. You have something in chronological order, but it's past focus. Only 10% had a LinkedIn profile that's future focused. So don't worry if your LinkedIn profile is not future focused. It's never too late. You can start doing it now. That's why we have the radio show. So we have Zia on. Vanessa, right?
Yes,
what's
we
Zia going to
do.
tell us?
Hello.
Hello, Zia. How are you? Thanks for sharing your profile. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Isaiah. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, can I have one request from everybody that's watching? Can you smile for us? There you go. All right, you did it. That's the picture that we want. Okay, so what did you learn from our little analysis of your LinkedIn profile?
First and foremost, thank you for having me on.
Yes.
It was very helpful. The feedback was very helpful. I'm going to be working on those recommendations as soon as possible.
Great.
The main thing, of course, is maybe the style of the way I should be talking about. Or you said be a little bit softer in, say, taking the quotations. That may be a better way of me to tell my story. One of the other things that you said was, making the descriptions more relevant to the job. I hadn't thought about that too much. I wasn't in that much detail. So those 2 recommendations are definitely going to be what I'm going to be doing first and foremost.
Great.
Plus the smile, of course.
Yes.
I have a couple of questions, if that's
I'm
okay.
ready. Yes, let's move right into those.
So we were talking about, I think the summary should be covering, our pitch, or at least that's what I understand. We should be having, who am I, what am I doing, and why should they care about it?
Yes.
So if that is a way of what I have in my summary is my pitch or close to my pitch, when I come face to face in an interview, how would I verbally, reiterate that and talk face to face and give my pitch again? Would I use a story, for example, my personal story would then be used here, or would I use a different method?
So so great question. And your elevator pitch, like the cheeky method for your elevator pitch, is to answer 3 questions. One of those questions is in 2 parts. So it's who are you, what do you want, and why should somebody else care, right? That's really the critical factor, and that's why you want to end on that. The who are you part needs to go beyond just who you are scientifically or who you are in engineering or STEM or whatever. You can say, I'm an immunology specialist, etc. I'm an environmental scientist, but you should also say, and a CrossFitter, right? Something. Because I can't tell you how many talks I've given at different universities, companies, institutions, and when they create their elevator pitches, we do like an exercise, and they say their elevator pitches out loud, everybody remembers the personal part of the pitch, right? Everybody's going to remember you're a CrossFitter. They're going to forget that you're in environmental science. Because as PhDs, right, and as people hiring PhDs, we're inundated with everybody is, you know, a scientist, everybody's in STEM. Certainly if they're looking for somebody with an environmental background, everybody they've interviewed is environmental. But you're the only CrossFitter, you know, not only that, you're the only person who mentioned it, they're going to remember you because of that. Or if you're into arts and crafts, hiking, whatever. That's the first question you need to answer. The second question is, what do you want? Most people forget to say this. And it has to be framed in not just what you want for yourself, but frame it in terms of what you want and why it matters to other people, right? So you don't just say, like if you go to a networking event, don't just say, you know, I'm so-and-so, I'm Zia, and I am an environmental scientist. I like to CrossFit when I have time, you know, on the weekends or whatever, and I'm here to get a job. You don't want to say that at a networking event. Instead, you would want to say, I want to expand my network and build some meaningful relationships in XYZ area. The final piece is that why. Why should somebody care? You want to get into, you know, an environmental position in industry because you want to see your knowledge translated into a product that helps people or helps save energy or helps reduce your carbon footprint or whatever it is, right? That's the story. And you can absolutely use that when networking, when interviewing. The only part that usually changes depending on your audience is the second part, because if you're interviewing, you know, what you want can be more direct. Like, I want this position, right? I want to become a project manager, then because, and that's your third and final, because I want to help create products that solve XYZ problem.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That was very helpful. So 1 and 3, we don't have to change too much, but maybe the 2, which is a bit more about the company itself, should be tailored more.
Yeah, exactly. And all of it, you know, all together, you should always tailor things a little bit for your audience. And this isn't, you know, not anything done sneakily, right? If that's a word. It's, you do this because you want to meet people on their level. Okay, you want to communicate in a way that is good for them, not just good for you.
Okay. Another question then, Isaiah, if we have time.
One more, yes. Let's do it.
Do we mention our goals, objectives during the pitch, or is that for the next question? Goals, objectives, my career trajectory, what do I expect, or do I wait for them to say, where do you see yourself in a couple of years, for example?
Great question. So you want to think of this as like the upside down pyramid. You start broad, just like Zach said, right? You say, I realize that water is connected to everything in life and it fascinates me. Now you have my attention, because if you go super deep right away, like most PhDs, right? Like, I study XYZ molecule and how it interacts with other molecule, you're just like, right? I don't care. And you lost me already. Like, there's no context. That's the problem. So start broad, the upside down pyramid. Give them the broadest context possible. It could literally be as broad as, I want to help develop environmental products that help people. Now they have context. Now you can drill down as they ask you about more specific goals or where you want to be in a year. Does that answer your question?
Definitely, thank you.
Zia, great to see you. I'm going to talk some Art of War with you in the future, okay? We'll discuss it. We'll tell me what the best translation is that you have for that book, and we'll talk about it. Great to see you on. Thank you, Zia.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Okay, what's next?
Swag.
Swag? Wait, Vanessa, are we doing swag or transition stories?
We should do transition stories, COTW, and swag.
So you're both right. Okay, great. All right, so we're going to talk about all of the transitions. So we like to share the transitions, as in PhDs who transitioned into industry. If you're watching this, if you follow Cheeky Scientist, all we do is help PhDs get into industry jobs. That's all we care about. This is why we have a lot of people say, why are you guys so, focused on industry jobs? What about these other jobs? No, industry jobs only. What are industry jobs? They are essentially non-academic jobs, but you can't define something by what it's not. So what is it? It would include, pure industry, biotech, pharmaceuticals, right? Tech companies, nonprofits as well are considered industry jobs. Corporations, private companies, large companies, anything other than the traditional academic position. So who has transitioned this week that we want to spotlight? We have some people who we want to spotlight here, and we like doing this because it's going to show you it might show you some job titles you didn't even know was a possibility for you as a STEM PhD. First, congratulations to Milind Nigam. Milind is not only a member of the association, but also a member of our advanced program Scientist MBA, and the transition was into an application scientist position. Congratulations. Mary Elizabeth transitioned into a biotech and sequencing support specialist position. Natalie Fredette transitioned into a Scientist 1 position. Congratulations, Natalie. Deborah Hutchinson's transition into a research analyst and research librarian. So many different job titles, right? So many you haven't even heard of. PhDs are being hired like crazy in industry, in demand in industry. Natalie Neveu Deschamps, am I getting close on that? I think it's a French word. I'll try better next time, Natalie. Global Study Manager in Clinical Trials. Clinical Trials, that was a great transition story. Congratulations again, Natalie. Sonali Pandey, so excited for Sonali. This is her second transition. She got into a medical science liaison role. She's in our advanced program, the Medical Science Liaison Alliance. Congratulations, Sonali. And finally, Alex Portillo. Congratulations. He transitioned into a senior representative inside sales and marketing. Who is our Cheeky of the Week? This is a person who's in our Cheeky Scientist Association that has just done a great job going through the materials, engaging with the group, and is right on track to get hired. Jessica Kishimoto. Congratulations, Jessica. Well done, and we will make sure you get your gift for that. And swag winner, who is it, Vanessa?
It is Rupsa Basu. I'll put it in the chat box.
Rupsa Basu. I want you to say it.
Rupsa Basu.
All right, now we're aligned. So Rupsa Basu. We all said it right, I think, right? Okay, congratulations, Rupsa. Thank you very much for being on. So who wins the swag? You have to be a Cheeky Scientist associate, and that allows you to join us on Zoom. We give away gifts to our associates, and of course they can participate in our polls, and they get the recordings of these radio shows as well. So thank you all for joining us. If you're on YouTube, thank you very much for joining us. If you're on Facebook in our private group there, thank you for joining us. If you're on Zoom here, or if you're on our public Facebook fan page, thank you for joining us too. If you want to learn more about transitioning into industry, go to phdsgethired.com. phdsgethired.com. We will send you our ebooks on the top 20 industry positions, top 20 transferable skills for PhDs. We have a resume guidebook. We have a new ebook coming out soon on informational interviews, so stay tuned for that. Don't forget also to sign up for the webinar. If you didn't sign up to next week's resume webinar yet, you can go to phdsgethired.com, enter your name and email there, just because it's easy to remember, phdsgethired.com, and you will get information on the webinar as well. So thank you very much. Somebody stole my mouse, I got it back. Very good to have all of you on. Thank you in the chat box. Thank you. And this is the end of another Cheeky Scientist radio show. We will see you all next week. If you're our members, we are doing a members-only radio show next week, so make sure you tune in. If you're on Facebook or social media, please join us every day. We post stuff for you. Just follow us on Facebook, and you can follow us or subscribe to us on YouTube as well. So thank you, everyone, and I will see you next week. Okay, I gotta find my royalty-free music here, because somehow they all know when it's not royalty-free. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Hong Mi. Good to see you on. Thank you, Jean-Marc. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Joshua, for watching. Thank you, Wari. Thank you, Abigail. Thank you, Anna. Really good to see everybody on today, all of our members. Thank you very much for joining us, Anna. Thank you, Alex and Rita. What was your favorite part today, for those of you that are still on Zoom with us? Thank you, Aparna. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Buzane. Thank you, Chinmay. Thank you, Deepak, Derek, Efrain, Imad, Fergus, Hugo, Jean-Marc, Jessica, Cal, Kamal, Lydia, Lisa. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Luigi. Hi, Marco. Hi, Martha. Meju and Nadia and Asama, Perez, Prabat, Prami, Rashmi, Ruhi, Rupsa. What was your favorite part? You're welcome, Sarika. Everything was great. That's the best you can do. Come on, I want some details here.
Well, Leia says Jeanette was interesting and informative.
Jeanette! See, that's why we really tried to get Jeanette on so hard. We finally got her on by audio. Imagine if she was there by video, how interesting she would have been. She always kills the show. Chris is stealing my mouse. Yeah. Yeah, what happened? Sally, Sarika, Subam, Teresa, Trupti, Vasuda, good to see all of you on. Thanks for joining us live. Thank you all for joining us live on Facebook. Again, go to phdsgethired.com if you want to learn more about the association and getting hired in industry. Thank you all very much. I'm going to stop live streaming now. Tune in again soon. We'll be doing another live radio show soon if you are watching us publicly. Thank Thank you all. Thank you, YouTube. Good to see you on. Good night, YouTube. I don't know how to. You can do this. There we go.